Most iconic JD machine, rapper's favorite car, TikTok editor's favorite car, and every guy who wanted to have a track car or have a track car had definitely dreamt about owning this car, and had definitely not masturbated to this car. Even my mother knows what a GTR is, and she called the Supra an ugly looking car. Welcome back to the YouTube channel, guys. This is Giza Media, and today we're going to talk about NISSAN GTR Skyline. But then it doesn't become a Skyline. But you know what? Just Nissan GTR. Let's just start with Nissan GTR, the ones we know, the R35, R34, R33 maybe, or R32, R31 if you're weird. Everyone knows what a Skyline GTR is, with those round looking headlights, very iconic. And in initial D there was definitely a GTR. Well, at least there was a GTR in the Devil Z, the anime that the Devil Z was there. So the Nissan Skyline was first produced by the Prince Motor Company, the same company who made a car called Prince Gloria Super 6. And in 1967, Nissan and this company merged together and first sold the Nissan Gloria, which was a successful luxury car. So the car was designed by the legend Shinichiro Sakurai. Note on this guy, actually, he made his employees draw like a Japanese calligraphy, because he used to say if a person can't draw some simple lines, they can't design a car. So yeah. So the first ever Skyline was introduced in 1957 at the Takazuka Theatre in Tokyo. They called it a luxury car. Had a 1.5 liter GA3 engine, making a mind-blowing of 60 horsepower. I mean, it's 57. 60 horsepower is a kind of lot. It was capable of going 140 kilometers per hour. I mean, that's fast. And then came the second generation Skyline. It was in 1963. It was in 1963, and it was called the S50 Skyline. Nothing really major about it. It's just, it was there, okay. And then the third generation. This was the kind of new step for its looks, because it looked a bit boxier, and for a car that is made in 68, it definitely did look like a 60s car, because it was made in 60s. It had a 1.5 liter or 1.8 liter engine, came in both station wagons and sedans. The only very noticeable difference between this and the previous generation is the taillights. And they made like a 2000 GT version of it, and then a GTX model, and then later they made the first ever GTR. Skyline in 1969. Nice. It was called the Hakasuko. Haka means box, Suko means skyline. So it had a 2-liter engine with dual overhead camshafts, making 160 horsepower. Remind you, this is just step into the 70s and you have 160 horsepower Japanese Nissan car. So, and it had like 180 Newton meters of torque. The engine was almost the same engine that was in the Prince R380, which was a race car. And this GTR was made for racing, and it really did win races. It had 33 victories in 2 years. Its main competitors were the 1600 GT by Toyota, the Isuzu Velet, and yeah, no chance. Have you ever heard of Isuzu Velet? Yeah, neither have I. So yeah, you know why now. This generation had like so many varieties of 1500 with a 1.5 liter engine, 1800 with a 1.8 liter engine, 2000 GTR with a 2 liter engine, 2400 GTR, 2400 GT, it had like many amounts of different body types, a couple of different body types. So yeah, in 72 they made the 4th generation, which had a very American looking look. It had a very American looking look. So this was mainly because they wanted the cars to be sold in America, and America is weird, the land of free is weird. So they need the cars to be American looking, and Americans didn't like Nissans. Well, at least Nissan thought they didn't like the cars that was made by Nissan. It's like, that's a Nissan, man. It's not a racing car. It's definitely not a car that had won many championships. It's definitely not a car that looks good. I don't know. It's America. America. So yeah, they sold it as a Datsun K series car, and this was a famous car actually. It was known as the Ken and Mary. In a commercial which this car was promoted, there were 2 actors named Ken and Mary, hence Ken and Mary. So the odd styling of this sedan inspired the design for Sylvia, and this was actually a very successful generation. Like almost 700,000 units were sold, and it had a 2.4 liter inline 6, had a 3-speed auto or a 5-speed manual. It was sold in Australia as the Datsun 240K. So yeah, and then they made the hardtop GTR version of it in 72 and had to stop in 73 because of the oil crisis. Anyways, they made the 5th generation later, the C210. Had a variety of engines, 1.5 liter or 2.4 liter inline 6, of course. This is, in my opinion, is the ugliest looking Skyline. And then the 6th generation, the 1981 R30. It had several options like 2-door hardtop, 2-door coupe, a 4-door sedan, a 5-door hatchback. Had various engines too. At the top of the range was 140 horsepower single overhead camshaft turbo inline 6. At the bottom of the range was the inline 4. There was a diesel version, and in 82 there was a 16-valve dual overhead camshaft. The engine was called the FJ20, and it was the first 4-cylinder engine from Japan to have 4 valves per cylinder. It had adaptable suspension dampers that could be changed while you're driving. And then they had a facelift version, and that one got all 4 disc brakes. Remind you, this is the 80s. It even had tinted taillights. Why, you may ask? But yeah, it's cool. It's cool, man. Nobody cares. It's cool. So yeah. In 83, they made a version of the Skyline initially called the 2000 RS. It was called the Iron Mars, and you know why. It had a mind-blowing power output of 187 horsepower and 225 newton-meters of torque. And in 84, they added an air-to-air intercooler, allowing higher compression ratios, which means
I'm a power, baby! Testify!
it had 200 horsepower, 250 newton meters of torque. They also had a really crazy Group 5 car of this, the DR30. It was raised in 82 83. A 5-rated monster that is more equivalent to a Formula car than its broad-looking body panels. It had 570 horsepower from its 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and in 86, the car is based on R30s. This car had 4 wins out of the 10 races in Australian Touring Car Championship. And they went to 86 in Australian Endurance Championship and came second. 86, Australian manufactured touring car championship and came second to the Holland Continental. The 340 horsepower DR30 made itself known to the public that it was very capable and a story to come. And the story it made, the R31. So in 86, Naganori Ito made the boxy looking R31. So until this, Shinichiro Sakurai was the one who used to design the Skyline, and this was the first time Naganori Ito had to design the Skyline GTR, and because his sensei, who is Shinichiro Sakurai, was ill. So he had to live up to his sensei's name, and he failed. Well, not he didn't fail, but he failed with the R31. It didn't even have a GTR model, but it was the first ever Skyline to have the RB engine, and it was the first time Nissan's four-wheel steering was introduced to one of its cars. It had a Group A version of it. It had a GTSR model, which had like 430 brake horsepower in racing version. Well, but yeah, you don't really hear about R31 almost like as much as R30, or definitely not as much as R32. So yeah, so now comes the R32.